Hi, welcome to this lecture.
Talks about countable and uncountable nouns.
By the end of this lecture, you have to be able to answer these questions. Write a control activity to encourage young learners to practice the correct use of countable and uncountable nouns. And you have to write another activity, but it should be a free activity to encourage your students to practice the correct use of countable and uncountable nouns. Pay attention to create real life situation activity in a free activity uh, to help students to use the new land language in real life situation.
As you can see here, there are countable nouns like oranges, carrots, onions, and so on, and uncountable nouns, bread, milk, ice cream. So, for countable nouns, things you can count, for example, one girl, two girls, three girls, some girls, many girls. Before singular countable nouns, we can use a or an. For example, a girl, an animal, or a very nice girl. So that is because we can't use singular countable nouns alone. We need to use a or an or the before singular countable nouns. Again, a girl, an animal, a doctor, an English language teacher. So we use some with plural nouns, plural countable nouns. We can say some to refer to a number of or a few of, a group of, but we don't know the exact number of them. Okay, for example, a number of girls, a few of girls, but we cannot know the exact number of girls. A number of eggs, but we cannot know the exact number of eggs or a few eggs. So to summarize this, we can can count countable nouns, count things, and we can use a, an with singular countable nouns, and we can use the. We can use a few, a number of, a few of, a group of, because we cannot know the exact number of the countable nouns. Uncountable nouns. Uncountable nouns are things we cannot count, like bread, like milk, like cheese, like soup, like tea. So we cannot count things. We cannot say blood, so we cannot add s for plural for them. So there is a plural for uncount. There is no plural for countable nouns. Before countable nouns, we can use the, some, any, much, and this, but we cannot use a or an. So we can say blood is red. I have money. Also, there are many nouns can be used as countable and sometimes as uncountable nouns. For example, egg, hair. So we can say there is a hair, on the chair. She has long hair. So there is a hair on the chair, one hair only on the chair. And she has long hair. We cannot count the hair. So we say long hair without using a or an or the. So now it is uncountable noun. But there is a hair on the chair. We deal with here as a countable noun. As you can see here, there are words used with countable nouns and words used with uncountable nouns. For words used with countable nouns, many, a few means without a, close to zero, a little bit, fewer, and words used with uncountable nouns, much, a little, little, also close to nothing, less. Words used with both countable and uncountable nouns, some, a lot of or lots of, plenty of, enough, any, and more. As you can see here, there are nouns that can be used countable or uncountable nouns. It depends on the meaning, the use of, the context of the sentence. So you have to be aware of this point. Uh, Chicken, hair, room, fire, coffee, water, soup, tea, exercise, memory. So if you use chicken as a kind of food, so you have to deal with it as uncountable noun. So I had the chicken for dinner. But if you use it as a kind of animal, they keep chickens in the yard, in the backyard. For example, memory, the ability to remember. I have a very good visual memory. For specific memories of past events, he is trying to block out memories of the accident. What about drink? I like tea better than coffee. Number of drinks, 2 strong black coffees, please. So, according to the use of the noun, you have to deal with it to consider countable and uncountable rules. So you have to be aware of using suitable nouns, suitable words, keywords with the suitable context. For example, hair in general. So when you talk about hair in general, you have to deal with it as uncountable noun. She had thick brown hair. But if you are talking about individual hair, so he had a few gray hairs on his temples. Space, for example, if you talk about space in general, is there enough room for me? But specific room, so they have to sit in the waiting room. So waiting room, we deal here with the word room as countable noun, so we use the with it for an hour. Countable and uncountable nouns again. So as you can see here, if the noun ends with one of these letters, X, S, SS, or SE, SH, CH, ZE, or GE, or O, so you have to replace this letter, you have to add ES. For example, pox ends with X, so you have to add EX for the word box, so boxes. And some words you have to add s for them in a plural case. So apple, apples or apples, the same. Vowel, if the word ends with vowel plus y, so you have to add s and pronounce it as toys. But if the word ends with consonant plus s, like baby, so you have to delete y and replace it by ies. If the word ends with f plus e or f alone, so you have to replace it by ves, like wife, wives, life, lives, and you have to pronounce it like z. And there are irregular pronouns for some nouns: man, men, woman, women, child, children, and so on. Uncountable nouns. You can say there is some, little, a lots of, or no, and there isn't any or much. So with negative form, you can use any or much. Juice, water, milk, coffee, tea, snow, materials, and there are different kinds of materials, and different other words. We can use them as uncountable nouns. Now, your role as English language teacher to create a different controlled activity and free activities for young learners to help them to master the correct use of countable and uncountable noun. So, can you prepare different activities for practicing the correct use of countable and uncountable noun? Oh, we have to say yes, because we have previous idea about how to create controlled practice. As you can see here, there are different kinds of activities or exercises we can use for controlled practice. There is only one correct answer for each question. For this purpose, we call them controlled practice. And students have to do it individually first, then check in pairs. Then after that, the teacher should elicit students' answers and gives feedback. Choose. I have a, an, or no article pen. So the right answer is a pen. Correct. She likes cafes. The correct answer, she likes coffee. Match. I like black. So I like coffee, and I like black coffees. Correct. Sorry, rewrite. Two wives. So you have to replace F with V, wives. Look and write. Look and say. So for look and write, there are three girls. You have to write there are three girls. But look and say, you have to say there are three girls. Odd one out, you have to delete the different noun. Sugar, ice, egg, you have to delete egg. Why? Because egg is uncountable. Because egg is a countable noun, but sugar, ice are uncountable nouns. Complete or fill in the gap. There are space on the table, so you can say there are three pens, one pen. There are sorry, there are, so you have to say more than one. There are 2, 3 pens, 5 pens, or bags. So you have to consider to write a plural countable noun. Circle, similar to choose, circle a or an with egg. So egg countable noun, countable singular noun. So we have to use a, an, and because it begins with a vowel E. There are different activities for practice stage or for practice for free practice, but here I give you two different free practice you can use to help students to practice the correct use of countable and uncountable nouns in sentences, or how to use suitable words with countable and uncountable nouns. For example, in the first activity, you can ask students to work in pairs or in groups. Also, you can ask students to work first individually, alone, then after that, work in pairs in order to exchange answers, to complete other answers, and for teach other how to use countable and uncountable nouns correctly. Different ideas. Uh, One of them, give students different pictures for different countable and uncountable nouns. Ask them to write a sentence about each picture. So you have to prepare different pictures uh, before you attend to your class for countable and uncountable nouns. Then you have to give these pictures to students in order to write a sentence for each picture. You have to focus students' attention by writing examples on the board, by writing model answers on the board, how to write a sentence about each picture. So you have to help your students also by giving them clear instructions. And the second activity, ask students to draw pictures for different countable and uncountable nouns. So instead of drawing pictures, you as a teacher, you can ask students to draw pictures. And students like drawing pictures for different things. So you can ask them to draw pictures. Then after that, they can exchange pairs or exchange partners, exchange groups in order to ask them to say different sentences or a sentence about each picture, and they have to use the correct words with these nouns or with pictures. So you can start this activity by asking students work individually in order to draw a picture about any noun, countable or uncountable. Then show the picture for the partner. Ask the partner to say a sentence, to describe the picture by saying a sentence, but he or she has to use the correct words with the noun. And after that, you can ask students to change the partner by asking different students to say another sentence about the picture, or even to say the same sentence. Here the same, you have to focus students' attention on the correct use of words with countable and uncountable nouns. Okay, this is the end of this activity, this lecture, but your role to practice writing similar activities, controlled or free activities on countable and uncountable nouns for young learners. And you have to practice writing clear instructions in order to help your students to complete the activity successfully. Thank you for listening.